All right, you're asking for it, so here it is. Listen to this.
I want you folks laughing at we partners pod, kid. You understand? We in here drinking, singing, swinging, all that shit, dog. We sweating, getting wet, all that.
All right, welcome to the 184th episode of the Drinking Partners podcast. I hate to do this, but this is our Antonio Brown episode. Only because we actually playing them right now, like as we speak. I don't know. We're probably losing.
I have no idea.
Our guest is shaking her head, so we might have to change the title of this episode.
It's likely that you're losing.
But shout out to AB, man, like for what he's done. Underestimated coming into the league, but coming over and taking over the league. So shout out to him. Like, he's actually one of my favorite players. Just don't tell anybody from Cleveland that I said that. I am half of your hosting tandem, Ed Bailey. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Dave Bracey. Say what up to the people.
What's good with you people? We are the Drinking Partners, and if you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod. 184 episodes, man. We've been asking y'all, and we will continue to ask y'all, man. Please hop on iTunes. Actually, hop on Facebook too. Rate and review. That's how we know we're doing well. That's how we let others know that we're doing well, and that's how we continue to do well. So please hop on iTunes, hop on Facebook, man. Rate and review.
Look, you love us. You see us in public. You tell us you love us. Now, at the click of a button, please tell the internet. Please tell the world. Tell everybody, all right? And as always, 184 episodes in, we're never going to stop this. This is always going to be a thing.
Because it's working.
In lieu of rates and reviews, we do accept shots of Hennessy. So, like, if you see us out and about, you know what I mean? If you want to slide a shot across the table, be smooth with it. Be the most interesting person in the world. Slide us a shot across the table.
You know they got the little bottles or whatever.
Well, that's shots, the Conways is doing that. So shout out to the Conways and Car Guy DJ for setting the trend. Shout out to everybody who's been out, who's seen us, who's given us a shot of Hennessy to keep that trend alive, man. We love it. And we try to give back, too. So if you do leave a review, it may get read on the podcast, much like this review by our friends from Farm to Table, titled Drinking Partners is my favorite. And it just says, thanks for sharing the love for local beers and local businesses. And that really encapsulates everything we try to do here, man. Local, man. We try to support it all. Even though, y'all beating on my home team right now. It's always a tough Sunday when I got to come in.
You're getting a local ass whooping right now.
All right, well, chill. Now, we ain't even got to take it down. I will never support that, all right? We got some shit going on, man. Wait till we get Josh Gordon back, I think, or whatever's going on. I ain't really watching the NFL right now.
If he could put the blunt down, he's good to go.
Why should he have to?
He shouldn't have to. I wholeheartedly agree.
He performed very well with the blunt in his helmet.
There's quite a few. We could go with gripes and the whole nine. So I agree that you can't say anything bad about the NFL that I will not agree with at this point. So we there with that. But if you're looking for us, man, you can also find us October 20th down at Arcade Comedy Theater, man. As always, it's BYOB. Free beer, sponsored by Mindful Brewing. Shout out to Mindful, man, sponsoring all of our events out here.
Sponsoring the
podcast and whatnot. I'm over here on this Time and Space. It's got me feeling spacey right now. It's a 7% hop forward IPA, and I don't know if you had Mindful, if you haven't been out there, man, go stop down there, man. They got some great food. That Nashville hot chicken. You know what? Top 5 in the city, maybe top 2.
Maybe top 2.
Maybe top 2.
The chickens, the pressurized chicken.
Listen, man.
Pressurized fried chicken.
Between them, Carmine's, and Piper's Pub, man, those three, I've had some fire-ass fried chicken from them. But if you haven't been down there, man, go get some beer. Go get some of that chicken and come down to the show. They're giving out free beer October 20th.
It's BYOB and free beer samples. It's not like you got to choose. If you bring something, come and taste something else. And you can do that also at Arcade Comedy Theater on October 27th. Again, sponsored by Mindful. So it's a family affair, man. We love.
That concert show. We got comics. We got like 4 or 5 comics coming up from DC for that show. I mean, we're about to turn out the little Halloween special type thing. So come through for that. And if you look for tickets for either of those shows, October 20th is arcadecomedytheater.com. And then Comtra Theater is comtratheater.ticketleap.com, man. Sponsored by Mindful.
Yeah, so we it's our AB episode, and I commended him for, kind of breaking the mold of receivers, NFL receivers, you know what I mean? Like a smallish guy. You know, he's he's a little more flamboyant than a lot of people like, but I enjoy that he
Light on his
enjoys.
feet. I like his little sauces.
I like his little swag. You know, I ain't like that Rolls Royce he bought. That shit was kind of trash.
That was a little garish. I ain't even go.
Garrett, he been reading on the days off. Okay, they taking weeks off and then learning new words. I'm gonna throw garish in there. You was happy as shit when you read that in the dictionary. Like, I'm gonna throw that in there.
I don't know, it's hard to make a Rolls Royce look unappealing, but I mean, he found a way.
Oh no, I'd have still gotten in there.
Oh no, I would drive it. Don't.
Well,
I
couldn't drive it. It was black and gold.
It
was black and yellow.
Let's test those more. If you listening, he said he wouldn't drive your Rolls Royce. Let's test those morals, man. Holla at us. Let's see if we can get Ed in the driver's seat of that.
Yeah, well, anyway, shout out to him breaking the mold. But we have 2 mold breakers, shapeshift. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just they broke the mold, man. They came in, they tore shit up, tore up the establishment, man. They coming to, they're coming to make change, bring change to the city of Pittsburgh. I'm in full support of what's going on. I'm happy to have it. I feel like we've had some really good guests, and we've been able to bring on some dope people. And this might be one of our dopest episodes yet.
I'm excited.
You excited? I'm nervous. I feel like I didn't. I should have worn like a vest or something, a collared shirt.
I got my political socks on
because we've had one politician there, but we never had 2 at one time.
No, this is mad intimidating because at least between the 2 of us, we kind of keep up with one of them. And now,
now they got some inside stuff that they know about that they know we don't know about. We're gonna be sitting over here learning, but I'm happy, man. I'm super excited. We have multiple state reps in the building. We have Sara Innamorato and Summer Lee in the building. Say what up to the people.
Hey, how's it going?
What up?
Y'all thought I was gonna mess that name up.
Yeah.
Summer was waiting. Look, that's why the intro was so long. I went over it like 4 times in my head.
It's like double dutching. Yeah, you gotta wait for the right time.
Am I going now? That's why Dave makes me do it, because I mess up all the names. Like, Dave never messes up the names. So how y'all feeling though, man? We thank y'all for coming out.
Yeah, of course. It's great. It's a good day to be inside.
Well, yeah, definitely inside. Definitely inside. Are y'all Steelers fans? Let's get this out the way so I know how I'm going to approach y'all for the rest of this cast.
Sure. Lifelong Pittsburgher. I don't think you have a choice.
That's not even true. I know a lot of Pittsburghers who aren't anything fans, but I am.
All right. So Dave's going to be conducting this interview.
So I don't know. I guess tell us, individually, like how you guys got into politics? I mean, why? I mean, it's just because it's not a fun thing to do. I mean, it's being in the public eye and saying things that people don't like, and doing that from a female standpoint. I imagine a lot of fucking white men want to put you in your place on a regular basis, and you're still here. So why?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that. It's fun. It's fun so far.
Really?
I mean, we're not there yet. So we're not in Harrisburg. We're not, passing laws yet. So we kind of have this little leeway right now where we can say stuff that we want to say. Like, we can call people out. So in that sense,
really?
I mean, I say what I got to say.
Yeah.
And I came into this, I ran because my voice was needed. Voices like ours are needed. Like, we don't have Black women serving in Pennsylvania, period. So, I mean, that's a perspective that was missing. And it's an opportunity to really kind of bring our experiences and kind of how our experiences inform, our politics. Like, we need to be in those spaces. So I'm definitely enjoying the opportunity to serve, to be in these communities and to really lift up voices like ours that aren't really ever amplified.
And what district are you running?
So this is District 34. So Pittsburgh, some in the city. We have some of the eastern suburbs like Braddock and Rankin and North Braddock.
Okay,
Homestead.
There you go. That's you right there, Dave. Braddock in the building.
Are you in the district? Did you vote?
I'm from Braddock.
I was about to say,
I don't live there anymore.
You from Braddock?
I'm from Braddock. Yeah.
Word?
Yeah. No, we got history that you don't even know about. I mean, I did my homework.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's the district. So it's a pretty big district. It's it's funny, we have gerrymandered districts. Nice. Sometimes it's it's rich, it's poor, it's Black, it's white. We're crossing bridges. We're in the city, we're in the suburbs. I had the one ward in Pittsburgh that went for Trump, but they were still Democrats. So it was a really interesting race, and it was a really interesting area. But I rep for Braddock.
Yeah. No, Kia Kirby is a good friend of mine. I was at her wedding, so I was in her wedding. So
Yeah, she graduated with me.
Yeah.
Good people.
Oh,
Yeah,
y'all
very
got
good
real
people.
history.
I was like, good people.
Y'all got yearbook history.
Right?
Yeah.
She's one of the reasons why I'm here. Like, shout out to Kia. Like, she stepped out early.
She was the one that introduced me to you. I was like, she like put you in my. I was like, oh shit! Like, and then I started following, and I became a fan. So, and I'm like excited to have you here. I mean, as a result, so it's dope.
I'm honored to be here.
So Sarah,
yeah,
tell us, how did you?
You know what? I think it's the exact response that you led, or your lead into that question is like, we view politicians as like kind of by default scummy.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
you said it, so we're gonna. Yeah.
And that tends to be the way that we view politics. But really, we can shift that frame. We can say like, oh, our elected officials are there to serve. They're there to help. They're there to listen before they act. And we wanted to bring a different way of doing politics to our region.
So you're Democratic Socialist, correct?
Yes.
Or no? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So what exactly is democratic socialism, and how does that fit into a capitalist society?
Well, hopefully it doesn't fit into a capitalist society, and that's kind of the point, right? We're looking at a system, an economic system and a government system that doesn't work. It has never worked for a huge portion of people in this country. I don't see any way that it can work. So when we're talking about capitalism, when we're talking about just unfettered capitalism in this country, that's something that needs to be addressed. We have to address the fact that capitalism goes hand in hand with racism, goes hand in hand with white supremacy, and that needs to be called out. So when we're talking about democratic socialism, we're talking about, for me, and I would say probably for Sarah also, like we're talking about bringing back and really just amplifying policies that are common sense. First of all, they're common sense policies. We're talking about people-centered policies. We're talking about education as a right, as a human right, as a fundamental right, healthcare as a human right, as a fundamental right. That in the United States, we're the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't have, a universal healthcare system right now. We're talking about a living wage. These are all things that, we've uplifted in our policies. We don't really go around saying like, knock, knock, hi, I'm Democratic Socialist. But we're talking about, policies that really center people and not corporations, not rich.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just the ability for people to live a dignified life. Like, we shouldn't be the richest country in the world and still have people who we label working poor. It just shouldn't exist.
So you're in Pittsburgh. I mean, you're in politics, obviously built largely on tradition, and you're in Pittsburgh, built largely on tradition, and you have this out of the box way of thinking. Like, how do you present that to people? How's the reception been? Obviously, with being elected, you would think it's overall positive, but you're elected in your districts. There's the other construct, the larger construct that's like, no.
So
Running.
You're running? Oh shit! I'm sorry. I'm tripping.
We're almost there. We're about there.
No one else is on the ballot.
After this podcast, it's pretty much a done deal. Yeah, I mean,
Well, no,
it's the DP
you're gonna
bump.
win. Obviously,
Yeah,
I mean, because I just my bad. I assume.
So I mean, you're right.
I've been
Yeah, I
seeing
mean,
all
that's
of the support.
positive
Like,
thinking.
I've been seeing all of the support.
That's positive thinking right there.
And
I
it's
like
weird
that.
because, in our circles, the circles that I run in, I mean, like, I see all of the support. So I don't know if it's like that outside of that. I mean, everybody's like, Sarah, Summer, you got to do this, that, and third. So how have you been received within politics?
I mean, definitely there's been more positivity than negativity. And I think I want to begin with a little humble brag where if you look at the way that Summer and I ran our campaigns and you look at average voter turnout in the county, it's around 18% in elections like this. And we increased voter turnout by more than 50%. Wow. Summer got 68% of the vote. I got 64% of the vote in my district. So that tells me that people are hungry. They are ready to be engaged. They're ready to be brought into the process. They want politicians who are going to talk about real policies that are going to impact their lives. And they're ready for new young voices who aren't going to accept corporate dollars and talk about racism, talk about dismantling capitalism, talk about healthcare for every single person and free college and all the things that really matter and would make a big difference to folks.
So how do you run a campaign without corporate dollars, and how do you do that on a larger scale? I mean, because it's, not that you're not on a fairly sizable scale, but I mean, like, the president it's kind of hard to win the presidency without the Koch brothers. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you scale that up?
money is definitely, it's always going, not always, it should not always, but as of now, in our reality, money is really, it's a huge barrier to getting into politics, to running your races, to winning your races, definitely. Obviously, we're not the president. We are state house races. We were told that we had to raise around $100,000 each to win, which, for someone like me, for someone like Sarah, we're regular folk. It was daunting, but we outworked folk. We grinded. I mean, you can knock on doors for every dollar that is spent in an election, to go into cable TV, to go into network TV. That's money that's some people will say that that's well spent money, but we would say that we can knock on 75 doors, on 100 doors a day, and we can reach voters directly. So there are definitely ways to curtail that. But also it's engaging people, it's asking folk who had never been asked before to interact with politics in a way that they haven't before. So I'm going to regular folk. I'm going to people in my life, my community members, our business leaders, all of those folk who we interact with on a daily basis. And I'm asking them to give what they can. I'm asking them to make an investment in us. And in turn that we are, we're going to represent this community. Other rich communities, they invest in their politics. So that was how we did it. And then also, there are rich people who are not all bad. So we take their money. We take that money.
In lieu of rates and reviews. Yes. In lieu of rates and review, we will take campaign donations.
Be like, if this is no strings attached, we'll
plug that. We'll plug our info at the end.
How is a no strings attached thing work? I mean, is there ever such thing as no strings attached?
Yeah, I think people are willing to, we say, here's our vision for the state. Here's what we're running on. Cool. What do you got? And folks wanted to invest in our vision and who we are as politicians and see our growth. Everything is a balancing act, right? Is it disgusting that we both had to raise 6 figures to run for a state house race? Absolutely. Yeah. That's the most money I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't touch it. It was really sad.
But really though, there's a return on investment in that though.
Yep.
So for us and for like people who are regular people who don't make that sort of money, we can look at that and say, man, that's an obscene amount of money. But when we look at the return on investment, we're sending to people who care about our communities, who people can relate to, who are going to fight for us when we get to Harrisburg or wherever it is that anyone like us goes. And that can translate into really real things. So yes, $100,000 for us, but if we get a single payer healthcare system, it was worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I guess where we're at is that it's an insane amount of money or whatever. It's a great investment, but also and that's the hard part is to elect officials that are going to vote against themselves. That's what's tough because if you're talking about real campaign reform, if you're really talking about term limits, somebody in office has to vote themselves out of a job. And vote themselves out of some guaranteed kind of money coming through, some good money coming through, and that's what's tough. Because a lot of motherfuckers are talking about it. They get in and then they become career politicians. How are you preparing for that?
Well, it's that balance. It's saying, it's recognizing the way that everything is currently structured is wrong, but we need to play that game at the present moment to be able to get into that position of power to be able to change it structurally. So you're constantly playing with these different identities and living in these different worlds. Sometimes you're wearing your activist hat, sometimes you're wearing your organizer hat, sometimes you're wearing your I have to govern, I need an elected official hat. You're constantly trying to just morph and live in these different places and deliver on the vision that you set out and that you ran on. And I think what we did, we only were elected because we had combined probably more than 1,000 people, probably thousands of people who knocked doors for us, who hosted events for us, who gave us $5 out of their wallet. And that builds a network of accountability. Most of the time you have elected officials who get that $100,000 from a handful of people or organizations or unions. And that's the only people who are then have their eyes on what they're doing. But we now have thousands of people who are like, hey, you promised that every decision you would make is going to get us a step closer to Medicare for all. So what are you doing?
And you're still in the streets. If I give you $5, That's my last $5.
Yeah, I gotta see you.
And so and I know where you at. You know what I mean? So there's hella.
They know how to find us.
I don't underestimate. Like there are people, and if you go through our financial filings, there are some people in there who gave their last $5.
Yeah, I mean, shit. If you give $5, it's your last $5. Nobody with $100
$5 that got 20,000 to give. But I'm gonna only give you $5. That's never like that.
That's exactly true. We had people who gave a lot of money, like thousands and thousands in one hit. Yeah. And for real, like that person, that wasn't nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
they can give that $1,000
I don't know what to say. If you got a couple of thousand for somebody, they probably had a few more to give.
They know they do that regularly. Like it's not even a thing of passion for them. It's just like, this is what I do.
Their bus fare though?
Yeah. Exactly. No, I mean, and that's what, like, I mean, watching your growth. I mean, and that's social media or whatever. Like, I mean, that's what I love about politics these days. I mean, I love the more or less like the transparency almost that's there. I mean, like, as much as I hate I hate Trump and like the whole tweeting thing or whatever, you've never had that much access to the thoughts of a president in your life. You know what I mean? Like that much thought, like access to that. Now, is it smart? I want
that much access to his thoughts, though.
I'm not advocating that anybody use Twitter the way that motherfucker uses it. But what I'm saying is that it is indicative of an age that we're in, where, like, I mean, it's a double-edged sword where you are able to affect a whole lot of people with less money, just like we do with the comedy. We wouldn't be able to do what we do if we had to actually pay for somebody to air a commercial or like an ad or whatever, as opposed to that grassroots movement where we can get 1,000 people sharing some flyers. And then boom, now something happens. You know what I'm saying?
And that's definitely the key. Just like when you were asking, like, how do we campaign without taking on all that corporate dollar, all them corporate dollars, oil and gas? That's part of it. Especially for our generation. We are the Twitter generation. We can get on Twitter. We can post our thoughts. We can spread our platform. We can, promote our events. That's something that is completely free. So campaign, so folk who have done campaigns in the past, they did rely on, mailers that cost thousands and thousands of dollars, a TV buy, and we can do the same thing on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter. So that has opened up. It's definitely opened the floodgates to allow a different generation of people to get into campaigning and to allow a different class of folk to get into campaigning.
So how important is timing? Like, because it seems like Pittsburgh, the city, is in transition. So it's ripe for, progressive thought. At least that's how I view it. And so me being a transplant, being the only transplant here, like, how do you connect to us? You know what I mean? Like, you have the Twitters, you have social media, but how do you, with increasing turnout, I don't know. It took a long time for me to be invested in local politics, because as a transplant, you come to the city, you kind of like, you one foot in, one foot out. You're like, I'm trying to find my way out. So if I start voting for these things, I've admitted that I'm here. Like, I'm a part of it. So what sort of efforts have you had to increase that?
I think it was just meeting people where they were at. I mean, we went out every day. Our campaigning was great because it was super rhythmic and we knew what we were doing every day. We were getting up and we were eating breakfast. We were probably sitting in our cars for like an hour and then we were going to go knock doors. And that's the way that you just like have meaningful discussions with folks. And I know in Summer's case and in my case, we took the same message to every single corner of our district, including the ones that went for Trump. And people responded.
About the piece about, like your transiency and folk who don't typically engage in local politicians. I was one of those people, like, growing up. I went to law school. I worked on a campaign before. I've done voter registration. And, we always hear that, local politics is what matters. But no one actually really explains what that even means. Right. So you'll start repeating it. You'll repeat it, but you don't actually, you're not internalizing it. Yeah. I really realized, last year, how important, what local politics is important really means. So we're looking at school board situations, like a school board that can vote on your taxes, on your tax rate, on your property taxes. They're voting on, whether your kids have a black teacher or not, but they're dealing with your money in your towns. We're looking at committees that then decide what candidate gets to be endorsed, therefore what candidate wins. We're looking at magistrate judges that can determine whether you get cash bail.
Right, fucking magistrate judges, man.
And then I started realizing how important local elections are. So what we did was we ran educational campaigns.
I was just going to ask how much of this is
education.
So we
taught people everything that I learned. If I learned something today, I'm going somewhere and I'm teaching somebody something. And there's no shame in it.
Each one teach one, man.
There are so many of us in politics who feel like we don't know enough to start. we can't go vote because there are so many people on the ballot, so many positions on the ballot that we don't even know what it is.
It's overwhelming sometimes. Like,
because
when you say local politics, like it becomes a micro thing, and it's like you're talking about like comptrollers and shit. You're talking, and like each district is different. They don't all have the same. You know what I mean? They have different times of the year where they vote or whatever. So if you want to be like an active local like participant, you kind of gotta really be, in it. And it can be daunting when you look at a ticket. You'd be like, I don't even know what the fuck that dude does.
Like, what's the solicitor do? Like, what's the sheriff?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that the sheriff was elected.
I don't even know. I'm still thinking
and
revolver with the spinning revolver. That's what I think it was. Sheriff. Like,
sheriff, tax collector. I'm thinking tax collector. I'm thinking like the Bible.
Yeah.
We're in Jerusalem. Like, Jesus is turning the table over. Like, I'm like, wow, we still have that?
Yeah, like, isn't the constable an elected thing or whatever? Is it constable?
I learned something today then.
Like, I mean, like,
constable is elected.
Yeah, constable is elected or whatever.
So,
there are people who like really go after that.
Yo, I had a friend that like ran for a thing that just was he just wrote his name. The
judge of elections.
And then and then he like won it because like nobody was running, so he just kind of like
those are mad positions. But think about that. It's mad stuff you can run for, which means that everybody can fit in somewhere.
Right.
There's a role for every single person who wants to serve, and we just got to break this narrative that only a certain person, a certain type of person can serve in some way. No, everybody's not going to be the president one day. Everybody's not going to be a congressperson. But we do need the solicitor. We do need, a magistrate. For a magistrate, you don't even have to have a law degree.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
I'm about to be a yo. I am so.
I don't know. I don't know if we would be elected for
my history with magistrates.
We can run your campaign.
Okay, yes. Cool.
We got you.
Look, run my campaign. I really want to be a magistrate. I find myself in front of magistrates quite often, and
them.
So
yeah, and they're dicks, and I mean there's some cool ass magistrate, and like because I mean when you get your traffic tickets, when you get like those are the dudes that you get in front of, and sometimes a magistrate is just a straight dick, and he just wants his cash, and he wants he's always siding with the cops. And then you got some magistrates who will actually listen to the case and be like, well,
it's rare,
that's bullshit. Yeah. I mean, like I've had like a judge look at a cop and be like, that's bullshit, bro. And that's bullshit. So yeah, I mean, and that's and that right there, if you're talking about like, like if you're talking about like a poverty tax or like or like penalizing the poor, I mean, like those are the folks that do that, because if I'm late on a payment or something like that, that judge can offer a warrant, or he could be kind of lenient and say, hey, let's set up a payment plan. There's a whole different ways that he can handle that. And those are what because those are the minor offenses that most people have.
But has anyone like approached just how that sort of court system works? Because you go into that, when you go into magisterial court, like it's just you and a bunch of people. And I don't even want to, like, I'm going to be honest, I don't want you to sit there and listen to that full case. Like if it's 30 people in here, I got to go to work. I'm on my lunch break, or I got to call off for this.
It depends on how it's run. They don't even always run it. Like, I mean, I've been in front of a magistrate and it's just been, and they'll have a waiting room and it's just like one-on-one or what. It depends on how
I've never been to that. Like I've always just been in a room with
That's why you need to become a magistrate so you can set that shit up like that.
I don't know if I want that,
it's mad discrimination.
I want that assembly line of making judgments on people.
When we're talking about, let's be honest. Like I come here and I'm unashamed in saying that I represent Black community. When we're talking about issues that impact Black folk and poor folk disproportionately, we're looking at a magistrate who can determine whether or not someone's going to jail for being poor, and whether they can get out or not. A magistrate can change a life and can change a district literally in a day. They can get sworn in, and then they can decide on that day. We're not going to evict people. We're not going to keep evicting all these people who are late for being poor. We're not going to implement this cash bail for you can't get out of jail because you're poor, but a rich person can commit the same crime and get out of jail. But that's real impact. So when we're talking about how do we actually change our lives, how do we actually change our communities, it's important to know, like we're always going to have internally, we're always going to have people who say, you can't change the system from the inside. That system is not built for us. Very true. We're not trying to change the system from the inside. We're trying to hold people accountable. We're trying to hold it because right now, it doesn't matter what system we're in. If we're outside of it or inside of it, they're still voting. There are still a group of old white men voting on mandatory minimums, voting on, whether or not we can make more than $7.25 an hour, voting on, all this stuff, reallocating money, deciding whether our community gets money or not. So no, none of us think that we're going to go there and change the system. I think I'm going to go there and try to hold somebody off from doing more harm to us until the revolution is ready.
If we get enough people.
So we need some magistrates right now to hold somebody off until we can assess the whole system.
Yes. And that's it. Where you can get good people in who are going to make those decisions immediately. But then we also need to recognize that these are economic decisions that we've made decades ago that have led to localities relying on these fees.
Right.
And so they overcharge folks and they get money from them because their coffers are dry, because we've cut corporate tax, we've cut taxes on the wealthy, and state and local governments are like, well, how else do we get money? Oh, we charge people. We put them into a prison industrial complex.
We're gonna take the
and
crap
just
out of you.
turn them out and make poor people pay for it.
Yeah, how many times have you gotten pulled over on some bullshit speed trap? You see the fucking, it goes from 20 to 30 to 45 back down to 20. Like, and you don't know what the fucking speed limit is, and then they pull you over and they're like, well, you were going 37 into 35, mister. And you're like, that's bullshit, bruh. Why are why do you got me here? Because the magistrate is letting that shit go. Because that's who you're gonna go see. And if you go see that magistrate enough, and that magistrate keeps telling them, I was like, look, man, I'm not gonna charge this bullshit, then the cops stop writing those tickets.
Right. And I'm not disputing what y'all are saying in that regard. I'm just saying, again, maybe I'm looking more of a systemic change, like where it's like, I could see where a magistrate might be, I'm
trying to get you to run for magistrate.
I'm
about to run for magistrate. I ain't know you ain't even have to have a degree to do that shit. I'm about to shit. I mean, I live in Beaver, so we'll take a while, but I'm about to start chipping like fucking
6-year term, $76,000 a year.
6-year term.
All right,
man. Andy Dufresne out this motherfucker. He's just a little pick, just a little bit. And next thing you know, you got a way to freedom. I'm announcing my bid for magistrate in 2036 right now.
All right. Well, I will vote for you because I'm wondering though with jobs like that and with jobs in politics in general. And we approach this. We were talking to AAA, like people who approach politics. We don't really know their motivation. So a magistrate gets in that position, and you have that ability or you have that influence to affect people on that level. But if your reason for getting there isn't that, then maybe the workload becomes cumbersome for you. Like if you got to sit in front of all these cases, how many times are you going to be given the benefit of the doubt or really looking into what the issue is? And I'm not excusing what they're doing. I'm saying maybe sometimes that's the issue. So
that's not just on magistrates. That's judges. That's our judicial system. Period.
How do you think if it's possible to even vet these sort of things as far as what exactly is your motivation, how do we, because people can spell out whatever, but how do we call to question those sort of things? Because again, there is the establishment. And if you're doing certain things that contribute to the establishment, then they're going to ride with you, even if you don't keep your promises.
Yeah, but you got to look at the votes and the actions that are happening once people are in office, because it doesn't end with campaigning. Like we are just at the beginning. Like we worked super hard to get here. We worked our butts off, but now it's like practicing what we went out and preached. And that's what we see a lot is the disengagement post-election. And, you have a lot of folks who hold power and hold elected office right now who would consider themselves progressive, but then look at their actions. And I don't think that they're lining up with the vision that they set out when they said they were going to be beholden to the people. And that's on us to call that out. And that's on us to not only call it out, but when they don't change, to run our own people.
I mean, I'm running my own people anyways.
Yeah, nah. So how often when did you decide that you were entering politics? Like, was this a lifelong thing or?
No.
So that's what I'm saying. So that's what I mean. So like, we just discussed the bevy of positions that are available that no one knows anything about. Like when you enter politics, and I don't know if you can answer this, like, do you have an end goal for where you want to end up? I'm sure certain people do. And there's a blueprint to go from here to here to here to here, but I don't know. Like I don't know. Like, how do you know what you want to do when you come in? Like, just to come and say, I want to, evoke change.
I know what I want to do. I mean, specifically, I didn't know. So I, for the first time, considered running for office ever in my life last summer. Okay. Before that, I had never considered it. Never give it any sort of consideration. And this is after having worked on a campaign. I grew up in a Black community.
You were a different summer last summer?
I was the exact same summer last summer. I was literally the exact same summer, but had really just cut out I couldn't conceptualize certain positions for me because I had never seen it. And I didn't even know how some of these positions operated.
But what made you even want to get in?
Well, what I want to do is I want to end systemic racism. I don't want to end personal racism. I want to be with the army of people. I want to be in it. Like, I ain't saying I want it to be me personally, but I want to end systemic racism. Right. I want to work always towards that. And I want to bring attention to the fact that it's cyclical. And if we are not just doing, root pruning, like we're pruning like the branches. I want to do that stuff where we're getting into the roots. And I knew that I always wanted to do that. But because when you're a little black girl growing up in Braddock, you're never going to be the one that says, I want to be a congressperson when I grow up. Like, I want to be a lawyer. Yeah. Like, I want to be a lawyer because that's what we see. Like, I want to be Thurgood Marshall because, we've seen that before. Yeah. So this was me realizing that through policy, through legislating, through creating laws, that we can actually start to get at that root. So we can really start to call out America for what it really is. We can really start to bring to light, what's really happening here, instead of having people keep looking at our community and saying it's our fault, or how come you haven't advanced farther. We can actually create platforms now, and not just the platform to talk about it, but the platform to fix it. So that's why I got involved in this, and this is what I always want to do. So maybe it's not going to look the same in 5 years. Maybe in 5 years, the state house is not going to be where I can do that anymore. Maybe I need to go to a law firm, or maybe I need to just go back to grassroots organizing. But I just want to be flexible enough and really just honest enough to be able to say that this was my passion, that this is my life goal, like this is what I want my life work to do, and wherever I can be of best use to the movement is where I want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just creating a life where everyone can have an economy where they can live a dignified life. And that means that they can take care of themselves and their family. And that's a really long, hard journey that we probably won't see in our lifetime. But as long as you have
that to swallow, like I'm doing all this, because like it's just like you got a lot of passion between you two. But is this a position for passion or for savvy? Like, you know how to work
it's
your way?
both.
Okay. All right, I'm asking. My bad. I'm just asking.
If you don't have any passionate people, if you got a whole government full of not passionate people, that's why our stuff isn't prioritized, because they're not passionate about, working class people, about everyday people. They're passionate about themselves. They're passionate about something. You just need to figure out what it is.
That's what I'm saying. So for me, like me being, a civilian, I like the passion part of it. But now if I was in politics,
we were savvy enough to beat 2 old white men who had been in office collectively for 30 years, whose entire family was in office. The entire establishment in Pennsylvania were behind them.
Family of motherfuckers. You ain't just defeat one. Yeah, it was a family.
Like, and that's why I asked that question earlier. Like, that just didn't seem like it would be possible years ago. Like, it just seems like with everything changing, it's right for that type of shit to happen right now.
The time is now. It's definitely now. Yeah. There are more people right now who are paying attention to politics, to the possibility that we can actually co-opt politics for us. More people who are angry, who are resisting, who are revolutionary, who are radical, who are saying that they're tired of just sitting back and watching. There are more people who are getting up and doing, who are saying that I can't just be on Facebook, I need to get up. And all of that combined at one time, and it just smashed. And now we got Pittsburgh politics. It all had to happen at the same time.
Yeah, it's crazy because people keep asking me about Pittsburgh politics, and I'm like, I'm not even into that shit. But
this is national politics, really.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a national trend.
But I mean, it's just crazy because I don't know. I guess I'm old. I don't know. It's weird, but like I wasn't like heavily involved in politics, and now it's crazy that you say like Pittsburgh politics, because I was like, it feels different. It like this time of like, and I think Trump kind of like shook up a lot of fucking people where like even me, like I've always been kind of politically minded and like aware of some things or whatever, but like, not always holding everybody accountable, not always like not with the same fervor. Like in the last 2-3 years, like the amount that like, I mean, there's not really not a day that goes by now that I'm not at least thinking about politics in some way, shape, or form on macro or micro level. I mean, and I think that's just a shared consciousness today in America. Yeah, I mean, especially in this region or whatever. But I mean, I guess talk on because you said like it's change that we're not going to see in our lifetime. I guess like talk on that a bit, like how you continue to, or why you continue to move forward, even though you're not going to see those benefits, because
that's noble as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that like people are like, well, why are you gonna like do this? Like, there's no way that like you're gonna make universal healthcare, or you're gonna get like UBI or any of these like these big expenses in your lifetime, or whatever. So then why fight for them? I mean,
I view change.
But when you say we, it's not you. You're not gonna.
That's not even true though.
You're not gonna experience it.
I mean, that's like just not true. Why wouldn't we experience? In just the short months since we've been done, since we've won our elections, we're now seeing little kids in schools, you know, 5th graders, 4th graders, juniors, seniors in high school who are like, I want to run for office and I want to do this now because I saw Summer and Sara do it. That's a change already. That's already a change. What we're doing is we're expanding the realm of possibility for what can be in a society. You can't go somewhere that you have no vision for. If you can't even see a possibility of something existing, you can't go there. So what we're doing is we're expanding that realm and we're creating that vision for what our society not just should be, but can actually be. Mm-hmm. And every step, every person that we get and we can bring into that vision, every person who we can give a little bit of hope to where they didn't have it in 2016, we are now empowering them to bring that change about. Because before, the reason why we couldn't make this change is because we could not see it. In our community, we could not see that. We could not see a way that we could do something, that we can make a system work for us. In our community, we all, to this day, we still believe that this system can never work for us. At some point, we just have to say that's not true. The system is people. People are movable. We can change people, which means we can change the system. It might be bloody. It might be long. It might be hard, but it can happen. So as long as we can keep saying that it can happen, you're changing something. That's changing my lifetime. I'm seeing change just by the fact that there are people who can now envision that this can be done. That's what I live for.
She sold me.
No, man.
I'm going to run for magistrate now.
Not only do I love both of your passion and like everything that you're saying and holding on or whatever, I also love the synergy. You guys clearly have been on this run together or whatever. It almost like it reminds me
same energy.
It reminds me of like me and Ed or whatever. Yeah, I mean, because I be doing like, Ed be on his shit. I'll be like, keep going. Yeah, I mean, and it's that like, and I'm just like, I'm watching y'all, and I'm like, God, that's crazy, man. Like this, that. And that's dope, man.
So it has to be a feeling of personal pride that I would say. So Pittsburgh is largely reflective of America, and it's very understated how like impactful what happens in Pittsburgh is. I will give that to the city. Clevelanders don't. You know what I mean? Don't come down on me, but I will give that to the city. Like a lot of shit happens here, and it happens here early on or first or whatever.
Or last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because y'all was still rocking leather shorts when I got to Pittsburgh.
We still.
I was gonna leave that alone though. Yeah, they was rocking leather shorts when I got here.
I'm trying to rock a black middle class neighborhood. That's what I'm trying to say.
We got that in Cleveland though. We got that in Cleveland.
In a country that does not have such a thing.
That's why when you said or last.
Politics, home, housing, schools. We don't have that.
Well, all right. So
speak on that.
Well, no, I was gonna say so.
How to create that?
A point of, I would imagine it's a point of pride that it seems that women are in the forefront of this movement, especially the political movement. Like, you know, we had Mary Marita Garrett on. Like, we talked to y'all. Like, women are out here.
We love her.
Yeah,
women are out here. Like. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Just like women are out here. Like I'm like, fellas, we gotta step it up. Like women.
I feel like men have had.
No,
their
you gotta
time.
step back a little bit.
Yeah, no. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let y'all handle this for a little while.
Well, no, it's not even that we gotta be in the forefront. I mean, even if it's step it up via support or it's just y'all really doing it out here. Like, how important is that to you two?
I mean, it's great, but you know, like you brought up Marita, right? Like I worked on her campaign a little bit, and that was an inspiration for me. And I watched her go through, like, get dragged through the mud and have shit thrown at her, and I'm like, and still, like, she just went through with grace and held herself in such a meaningful and articulate way, and is just, you know, this role model. And I think that, you know, the more we see that in society, the more likely it is that more women are going to come up, because that's a responsibility that we not only have as elected officials, but now it's like to reach back and say, we need to make it easier for the next generation of politicians, especially women, especially people of color, to run and to win and to not have to be dragged through the mud the way that a lot of folks are.
I do, like, I mean, Marita is a different type of a politician. Yeah, I mean, like, and it's crazy because it's in this age of social media or whatever. We're like, I mean, she's a real woman. She has like a real life.
We're regular people.
You all seem like you live here.
Yeah,
like, most politicians don't seem like they live there. Y'all seem like y'all live here.
Yeah,
like catch y'all on the streets, catch y'all getting something to eat.
We were kicking it at Fresh Fest. Yeah, I mean, that beer or whatever, and like it was a great time. And like it's so rare because there's so many politicians that I've met that are, and they're just very like, well, you know what?
They put the veil. They put that veil on.
They put it right on, and it's weird because they have this air, and it's like
it's because that's all they thought they can do. They have literally never seen politics done a different way. So as soon as you ever read the tweet, like you'll go on Twitter and it'll be like picture, and it's like, thank you so much to the so-and-so. So like almost like it's a script. Like a politician has to look a certain way. They have to sound a certain way. They have to adopt certain, lingo, which is annoying because your politician in real life is just supposed to be your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be you. It's supposed to be the people in your lives. And you don't actually have to put on. You don't have to transform into like,
I guess the Facebook versus Twitter posts and shit. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so can we put an end to those commercials where the politician is like at the place with the hard hat and he's shaking his head. And he's got the collared shirt, but it's super pressed and tucked in.
Yeah, like, and they're smiling and they're talking to an old lady, a black person, a young person.
Yeah, the smiles, the shakes,
the handshake.
That shit is dead.
At the end of the day, how many people voted for a politician because of their commercial?
I don't know.
No.
Have you ever liked the commercial?
I personally have never saw a commercial today, but I feel like there's people that
my commercial was cool. I had a kid with a basketball. Like
I didn't see your commercial. I've only known y'all through social media. So like that's
we posted them on social media.
Shout out to Chris Ivey who did both of our commercials.
Yeah,
so
Chris Ivey, that's the dude. Yeah, I mean he's the
he's his own like
he is our homie.
The Hype Williams of
I want to see a commercial with somebody like at a family function. It's just them and their family.
Yeah.
Like them and the old
I want to see a motherfucker riding on Ferraris. Like,
you
want to be standing on Ferraris?
Come in.
I was so flabbergasted when I had this documentary crew following us around, calling my docu-stalkers. And they're following us. They're doing this documentary on like Braddock and pollution and like the steel mill. And I had like an episode in it. So they followed us through election day. Well, a little bit after election day. So they were with me on election day. They're with me when I'm just like busting it up with my mom in the car.
Is this the old head white dude that's from Braddock that's doing this documentary?
No, he's in it though. Tony?
Okay. Yeah, Tony. Yeah.
No, I love Tony. Tony worked on my campaign. He does documentaries, but this is like some folk from like California and topic.com.
Yeah.
This is outside folk who were coming here to doing this, but they like showed like real me. They showed me like rapping in my car and like
that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, I want to see that on the campaign. Like, I mean, vote for Summer. I got dope flows.
Like Issa Rae in the mirror.
Like, because if I saw that, I'd be like,
oh, she gonna be on an awkward black girl.
Today you gonna be on the campaign trail.
Yeah, and then like
sending out the mail.
With like a half flag like waving in the background, and the eagle comes back. Like, what the fuck is this go like?
I'm really a real person. Like I'm really a real person.
Yeah.
Speaking of Braddock, just going on. What's going on with Braddock, man? Because the people keep asking me, what's going on with Braddock?
They got Superior Motors open.
Yeah, I mean, so like, well, that's the thing, right? Because you got these politics or whatever. Yeah, I mean, and like you got your Superior Motors, you got your Brew Gentlemen, you got Fetterman down there doing what he's doing and whatnot.
And then we got black people.
You got black people
who aren't a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, and you got like all of this expansion going on where, and people keep asking me, what's going on with Braddock? So what's going on with Braddock? Like, because everybody's like, oh yeah, you got these notable things going on, but then you look at the place, and I mean, the average income and the whole, I mean, the quality of life on average doesn't seem to have changed a lot. So is that? I mean, so where's the disconnect?
So that's what happens when you have culturally incompetent gentrification or development. It's like we're going to come and save you, but we're not going to give you the tools to save yourselves. And I think that is the difference. That's what gentrification is, basically. It's just saying it's saying that we're going to come and save you, or we're just going to come and take your land. Either one.
Right.
Both. It can be both. It can be separate. It can be the same at the same time. But folk who really like want to come in and save folk and create for them or bring in stuff for them, which is on the surface, it looks like it's a good idea, but in the long run, it doesn't give anybody in that community the tools to lift up their own community, to build their own community. Exactly. So
or woman.
That's my thing with Braddock. And that's what I want for any town. That's what I want for anywhere in this country, is that we don't need a free store. We need job opportunities. We need classes for folk in the community to learn how to create a business plan, because they got ideas, but they don't have that same access. They need access. They need the same sort of loans and crowdfunding that Superior Motors got to open up their expensive restaurant as those folk are getting coming from the outside. So I think that's kind of the leap. That's the hump that we need to get over right now in Braddock. We got a lot of attention. We have a lot of people who are wanting to pour resources into Braddock. And my hope is that we'll take your resources, absolutely. But I would prefer, instead of funneling into like these nonprofits who are serving as gatekeepers or these organizations that are serving and say that I will divvy it out, Heinz, give me your money, I'll divvy it out. How about we just have somebody who's actually from that community, who is in tune to it on the ground and knows what that community needs, knows what that community wants, to actually be a part of controlling development, controlling the resources that are coming in. So I think that's where we are right now. And I think that's what's happening. That's a disconnect that we're having.
Mm-hmm. And Summer's speaking to just what's happening in the region, right? We have this corporate philanthropic complex where we are relying on these folks who aren't elected, who just have a bunch of money, who are making these decisions on where to invest these dollars, instead of saying like, this should be like a public conversation. This should be around, this should be dollars directed from our public funds that go into communities and distributed in an equitable way, and not just folks at the top making decisions and like kind of sprinkling the scraps that are left over and like forcing folks to fight amongst them.
So allow me to, I don't want to play devil's, let me say play devil's
advocate. You should
advocate.
play devil's advocate.
All right, so that's true. So how do you, but I'm interested. So like, so money talks, we know money talks, right? So how do you get people, how do you get the haves to really invest in the have-nots? Let's just simplify it as that. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
there you go.
sometimes
Tax
it's
that.
Yeah.
There you go.
You'll never come in the box.
Give me mine before
So
God.
I really like graphs and charts and numbers. And we have, so in Pennsylvania, we have a tax structure that has this loophole called the Delaware loophole, and it allows for 78% of corporations that exist in Pennsylvania to actually not pay the corporate net income tax. That's billions of dollars that isn't going into our state coffers to fund that. Yes.
So
it's around, I think the first year it's projected that if we close that, and even lower the rate, we could get around between $1 and $2 billion.
So $1 and $2 billion where? In Pennsylvania?
To the state fund, to our general fund.
Just to Pennsylvania, a couple B's.
A couple B's to education.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say tax...
I know a couple broke teachers.
A couple B's to some healthcare.
I know a couple broke teachers.
And so when you, like, Ed, when you were talking earlier about like the between passion and kind of the political savvy, right? Like what's interesting about this conversation is like the passion and the vision. But like when it comes down to the nitty gritty, we need to talk about like our tax code, like, right? And that's not like, doesn't make interesting fodder for a podcast, but it's something that is absolutely necessary and actually feeds the vision that Summer and I are both talking about.
So I'm just, how the fuck are they not paying taxes? Like what?
Because they've bought politicians' votes.
Because they are the politicians.
For a long time.
Yeah. I mean, So I got
we can talk about Reaganomics. We can get back to the 80s.
Reaganomics.
What you want to do?
You know, because Buzzy gave us a warning, so we can't go into that.
You know how often.
He was like, yo, y'all gonna go over it. He kind of felt it. I don't even think we close to time. He was like, they gonna keep going.
We can go to Reaganomics, man. So should we tax God?
Talking about the church?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Well,
the Catholic Church needs to pay something right now.
I'm just saying, you can't tax one and not all of them.
I guess I don't know. I'm torn on that. Like I don't go to a mega church, so I think like the image that folk have of churches is like the pastor and the Bentley. Mm-hmm. You know, the pastor, they build in all these new rec centers and stuff. But I think what you really get, the majority of is you really just get this small struggling church that got 20 people in it that they can't keep the lights on and they don't got no air conditioning. So if you tax them, they just not gonna have no air conditioning. And the old ladies are gonna have to, pull out multiple fans.
Yeah, like
those are actually the majority of churches.
But if you tax those mega churches, if you tax these folks, would you you have enough money so that these people aren't relying on the church in order to have a place with air conditioning? Like, could you empower people?
I don't know. Are they
enough?
relying on the church for that? I just feel like you're supposed to go to church for God. Like,
I grew up in the church. I'm no longer there or whatever, but I grew up in the church, and like a lot of the resources, some of the resources, a lot of the amenities, some of the things, even the interactions or whatever, it was more of like a family type thing, and for a lot of these communities, it is a resource to that. I mean, but at the same time, like, I mean, growing up in Braddock or whatever, like our pastor did
you go to
drive
the
a cat
house?
off. No, Union Baptist. So, I mean, our pastor did have gators and a Cadillac. I mean, it just, I
Is
mean,
he
it was
still wearing gators?
So, I mean, it was a nicer existence. And I remember being poor and going there and my mom giving 10%, working 3 jobs.
How would
and
you even...
and give them tithes and offering, like, I mean, like I spent, every first Saturday at usher board meetings, every third Saturday at this meeting, at all the Thursdays on choir practice meetings. I mean, like all of there was a lot of time, money invested into that. And it was like, on hindsight, I'm like, how much of that money could we have used, especially 10%? To just in our own homes. And then again, if you have enough money coming in from the government, if you tax these organizations, maybe our lives could have been enriched by, in some way, if we didn't have to go to, to the church for like the food bank. Yeah, I mean, like there was a food bank at church. That's cool. But like, instead of there being a food bank, maybe we could have just had food provided. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, I would have kept my 10. If I'm poor and I can't eat, I'm keeping my 10%.
Yeah, but you're a little. See, you're not. And that's the disconnect between God and like the thing is like, because it's smarter. It's like it's a choice. But if you're a devout, I mean, if you really believe that, it's not a choice. You see what I'm saying? And that's the thing is that like you're like, and that's the problem is that like these, and the same thing. It's a when you look at Trump right now, the way he got elected was through blind loyalty, through blind devotion. You see what I'm saying? So when and that's what churches have is blind devotion. So it's not a matter of you and I, because speaking from a very logical point, no, you shouldn't do that. But there's no logic in religion. Religion is based on not questioning. It's just blind devotion. Faith in its own term is. So is there a responsibility to tax, or is there, or should there at least be a point where if you're bringing in this much money,
I don't know, because
you should be taxed?
Working on like just a business side of shit, like having lent money to churches, like they don't really have revenues, so to speak. So it'll be difficult to tax them because they don't have revenues. So what are you taxing? Which
is very. I mean, if we're taxing tithe, I mean, from what I understand, and I'm not the church expert, but from what I understand, that money is going to mortgage, is going to lights, is going to heat.
You're always the roof fund, the parking lot fund.
But we know how much
technically
costs.
Non-profit.
Yes. Like we know how much a roof actually costs.
Non-profit.
So if you're not selling anything,
right.
Where else are you getting that money?
Yeah, it's no way to tax them. They're non-profit. There's no profit.
So now we're just gonna have churches doing like Subway sales.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's like the target. Like, I don't know if that's who we should have like as the highest on the list. I'd rather talk about like nonprofits like UPMC, right? And like if you assess how much property they own, like even if they paid a small, like half of the property tax that they would be subjected to if they were a full for-profit, that would be hundreds of millions of dollars for the city of Pittsburgh and the region.
Yeah.
And that's where, if you're not actually providing direct service to people in a charitable sense, a charitable and equitable sense, and you're closing hospitals in neighborhoods like Braddock and opening up them in rich suburbs where there's already, there's not a demand for it. Like you're driven by profit. You're no longer driven by a mission.
No, I mean, I worked for UPMC the year that they had like a $200 million like profit, and
that's high like, now. That's way higher now.
Yeah, like this is years ago. Yeah, I mean, like it was $200 million, and we saw none of that because I was making just about
their
enough.
Workers. They've come to the conclusion that their workers still and by 2021 they can guarantee their workers 15. By 15.
By 2021.
By 2021.
I know organizations who have done that already. They can
provide their workers $15 an hour.
They could have provided their fucking
they could do
workers
that.
$15 an hour 10 years ago. They could have provided me motherfucking $15 an hour. Yeah. No, I feel you.
How do you avoid like, I don't know what to call it, like the Bernie Sanders effect, where it's like, got all these great ideas. Sounds great to me. Sounds very practical. Sounds like, yo, this is how the fuck's supposed to be. But then in practice, it's like, how do you implement that?
You get more people in office.
You get more people in office. Now,
if we are one, if I were going to Harrisburg by myself, it would be a lonely place. It would be a toxic place, and it's still going to be that.
Right.
But there's power in numbers. So that I'm not going alone, that Sarah's also going. And Liz Fiedler out in Philly, and hopefully Kristen Seal, and hopefully so many others are going to be going at the same time, forming a cohort of folk who are progressive, who are all running on the same, ideas. We now come in a block. We come in a voting block. Now, it might not be the voting block that makes a difference, but we build off of that. When you're coming one at a time, one election at a time, you don't really have any influence. That's why it's so important that we're creating pipelines of people who's had the same vision as you. Right. That's why it's important that if you are a progressive person at the top of the ticket, then you need to be on the ground supporting progressive folk at the bottom of the ticket. You need to be on the doors helping that state rep candidate, that state senate candidate, that borough council candidate, because we know that it all aligns. Because the more of us we have in place, the more the better and the easier we are to implement those ideas. As long as we're going up against a Republican, held House, it's going to be hard to implement any of that stuff. But some of that is also just learning how to talk to people, learning how to engage voters who both parties have forgotten about. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about a living wage, when we're talking about the environment, even the Democratic Party will say that that's too progressive. You can't talk about that in some places. But the people on the ground, that's what they actually care about. Right. The party just hasn't learned how to shape that narrative and craft that narrative.
And from a national perspective, like, you brought up Senator Bernie Sanders. Like, we've had discussions with him and his team. And we've also had conversations with Congressman Ro Khanna, who is the vice chair of the Progressive Caucus in Congress. And these are we're collaborating with folks nationally around a progressive agenda. So the federal level seats, they tend to get all of the best practices of all the progressive policies that are working well at a state level. Mm-hmm. And there's no entity that kind of redistributing those best practices to the state legislators. So we're working with those folks to build that so that we can actually share this policy knowledge, so we can start to be more reactive, just like the far right has been for a number of years.
The far right is very fucking organized, and
they're very organized.
Impeccable strategy.
Because they get to operate off of just solely what's most efficient. And morals are kind of exactly when you don't have morals to work off
of.
Win.
Well, capitalism is a moral in itself.
I can get a lot of shit done if I ain't give a fuck.
But you know what? We can still use capitalist principles to pass some of the legislation we want. So we want to fund education without taxing people more. Yeah, how about we decarcerate Pennsylvania? Mm-hmm. How about we look at how many people are funneled into prison systems, how much money we're spending on prisons, how much more money we spend on prisons since the 90s going into today, and look at where we're allocating our money. So for someone who's just a progressive bleeding heart, we'll say that we need to decarcerate because these are racist policies, because we know that people are going to jail for weed. Because we know that children are going to jail for schoolhouse infractions. That's maybe why we will look at it. But when we're looking at a Republican, we could say, and you should believe this too, because we're spending this much money to incarcerate them, which we could have spent less on educating them.
But
that's
now,
but here's
the thing, because now I've been thrusting the devil's advocate up.
No, you took that.
No, it's cool. I'm cool with that. I just don't want anybody here to think I'm arguing for the shit I'm saying, but I'm whatever. But we should decarcerate because, come on, yo.
No name. Come on,
man. I got a red shirt on.
I'm just
red shoes and
you
shit.
I'm
fucked up in the game.
Jesus Christ,
we can't put no photos out because I got on red shoes and a red shirt.
I'm socialist.
But no, so yeah,
we don't like
we as a country spend this much on prisons, but then in the private industry, there are, the people who do the phones, the people who now let the inmates email, all that shit. They making a lot of money too. So while nationally we're we're spending this much money.
That was Americans' job creation program, was mass incarceration. Right?
Yes.
When we disinvested in communities because our coffers were dry, because we no longer taxed the wealthiest 1% and corporations, we said, what are we going to do with all these folks? We have failing education systems. We don't have jobs. We've broken unions. We've pretty much give people an unjust existence. What are we going to do? Oh, mass incarceration. Great. Not only can we do something with these kids who are in these broken education systems, but we can also employ a bunch of folks folks. Oh, and guess what? We can get private corporations involved and they can make a buttload of money too. Then I think in 2015, there were 133,000 prisons and jails in America that are run by private corporations, which means they are for profit, which means they make money when people go to jail.
Yeah, like
that is not a society that I want to live in.
A loss.
So, first I want to say we are killing this fucking podcast. It's a hell of a dope ass podcast. Shout out to us. But
And this beer.
Shout out to Mindful.
Shout out to Mindful. Fueling the podcast.
Was it Peachy Keen?
Fueling
That's
the
a Fresh
podcast.
Press collaboration. That is
Shout out
exactly
to
why
that
that
beer.
was brewed. Shout out to
Shout out to
Mindful.
Sarah's boxed wine.
Yeah.
Nothing
We keep
but
it
the
classy
best.
too.
Yeah, I mean,
Nothing but the best.
So, two questions. One, how has, because you're talking about gerrymandering and whatever, how has the redistricting of like Pennsylvania, the recent redistricting of Pennsylvania affected your campaigns, and if they have, and like, I mean that, and then two, what are some, given local, politics, whatever, what are some local politicians that you may, like want to shout out for folks that like maybe not be in your district,
Sarah.
that might not be in
See,
your
we
district,
on the same
but like
wavelength because
yeah.
I was gonna ask like, how do y'all connect? Across,
Yeah, because I mean, like I said,
mean?
like they might not be able to vote for you, but like maybe there's somebody in your district, like go throw them a little, sponsorship or something like that. I mean,
So the
Seal
gerrymandering
breaker's a
did
deal
not, that court case did not affect us. It just affect congressional seats. So it was only every folks who are running for those seats. What we'll see in post-census, so 2021, they will redraw the districts for the state house and the state senate. So that didn't leave us impacted. I am teaming up with a woman, Lindsay Williams, who's running for the 38th senatorial district in Pennsylvania, and she represents some of the city neighborhoods in the northern suburbs. And yeah, she's rad. She's bred from the union movement, and she's pretty awesome. Another like kind of badass woman who's running, who wasn't necessarily told to run. And we've been working together, so I really enjoy her. So I will shout out to Lindsay Williams.
Shout out to L Dub in the building.
Yeah.
We had to swag it out. Lindsay Williams, Sarah, anyone you want to summon, brother?
I want to shout out all them people who don't know they're running in 2019 yet.
Oh yeah.
This is that seed that I would like to plant right now in you. Those folk who have been engaged in their community. They've been up at these school board meetings. They've been, fighting and battling with their out-of-touch borough council, their out-of-touch city council, and they don't know they're running yet because they don't know that it's them. Mm-hmm. So this is me giving you your first ask to, if it's you who's supposed to run, do some introspection, get your head in the right space, because we're at war right now, and there are seats in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County that are ours, that they're ours for the taking. We just got to be about tapping that mother who she knows what it's like. She knows what our government should work at. She knows what she needs. Why isn't she serving?
She don't know all them positions you told us about.
But when we tell her, we're gonna help her get plugged into them.
Yeah.
So I want to shout out those folks, because it's gonna be some people. It's 640 something seats open in 2019. 2019 throughout Allegheny County, there will be 646, I think, seats in Allegheny County that are up for the taking. Borough council, county council, city council, school boards.
Take one out, because I'm running for magistrate somewhere.
Magistrate.
I'm getting that somewhere. So where have you seen? So for me, this seems like a more local grassroots, like people who impact the community directly are taking this more progressive approach. Where do you see on a national scale? Like, do they do those individuals? Do you have contact with them where they'll be like, hey, let's get this going on this more local level so that it can reach the senators and things like that, so that it becomes the norm in America?
I think we're trying to build something like that.
Okay.
We want to work at all levels. We want to say, how do we connect with folks who are in DC, but then also, and arguably more importantly, is like, how are we connecting with our school board members, our future school board members, and our future municipal council folks and our county council folks, and saying like, how can we remove barriers so that you feel like you can run and win?
And that's encouraging. Sara said we're building that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point that out because right now we are so focused in our society on destroying something, on dismantling something. We're trying to dismantle the system. We're trying to infiltrate and tear down that. So that's great. It needs to happen. But concurrently, we need to be building stuff up. So I feel encouraged that it's us building, that is our generation building, and not those past generations. Because it's time that we start to shift that mentality to what we need to have and creating what we need to have instead of always relying on what we got. We got to start looking past what we have.
I want to say, like, and I agree. I mean, like in that, I do want to say, like, sometimes we get super down and like I am very like antagonistic of the system and whatever. Like, anarchy and like, tear everything down, whatever. But like at the same time, we got some things right here in America. Yeah, I mean, like we are in a society where we can speak freely. I mean, like where there is that hope of that.
Some of us.
Yeah, no, I mean, like even like I said, I mean, like even myself, like I mean, it's and that's what like you want to change. Like if there is no hope, then you just stop, you quit, you bail out. You see what I'm saying? So like, and that's I guess what I want to like. I just want to get out of it because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're always angry. You're always like talking about like shit or whatever." And it's like, if like I'm angry because like I say like same thing with Pittsburgh. Like I'm in Pittsburgh because I feel there's hope for change. You see what I'm saying? I love this city. I love this country. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't, then I wouldn't give a fuck. I would just pack my shit up and move. I would take my ball and I go home. But that's not where we're at. Like I love this country. I am upset with where it's at, and I know that can be better. Same thing like a family member. Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, like you could be better than this. So, like, I mean, I love you, so I'm gonna. Yeah, I mean, I might shit on you when you're doing shitty shit, and you deserve that. That's what I'm here for. If it's not, if a family can't tell you, then who the fuck can? You know what I mean? But like I said, I guess. That message needs to be said and kind of remembered sometimes because, some people just are like, well, it's all bad. And it's like, it's not all bad. I mean,
but it is our responsibility to point that out and to correct it.
Yeah.
I felt like you were channeling some James Baldwin there, right? Like he's like, I love America so much, I'm able to criticize it endlessly.
Exactly.
And that tension is so
Sarah's
important right now.
she
pulled out James Baldwin.
She just elevated herself above. We just I'm chilling on this cloud. She's like,
next week Sarah's gonna be a hotel.
No, not a hotel.
No.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think hotels like James Baldwin too much. I mean, because he's gay. So, I mean.
It's true.
She's going to be quoting Umar Johnson.
Umar had me for a minute.
He had me for about three good lines.
He had me for a minute.
And I was like, you know what? That made sense. And then he said the fourth one. I was like, this motherfucker.
You said no.
Umar had me, man. I ain't gonna lie. Umar had me. And I was just like, nah, man. Shit, you just.
Remember when Umar was arguing with homeboy? The other dude, he was arguing with the other hotel.
There was two
Tariq.
He was acting like his phone was ringing.
Tariq Nasheed? Was that when he was arguing with Tariq Nasheed?
Oh, was Tariq?
I like Tariq because
I don't actually know who he was arguing with.
Tariq Nasheed is like a hotel, but I don't even take him seriously because he do like shit like the Coon Train Award. So like, he's just a personality at this point.
Yeah, no, he's
Umar.
They're both. I mean, like, I don't know who. I think Umar takes himself too seriously, whereas, like, I mean, the Tariq, I think he's just like kind of reality star. I don't know. Maybe they both think they're serious, but they're both jokes. So there's that.
I did just win I was at a fundraiser for Lawrenceville United, which is a neighborhood that I live in, and I sit on their housing committee. And the raffle basket that I won last night was called Stay Woke, and it was coffee, and it was also a book on critical race theory. So
okay.
I was at the race thing. What's the event that they have every year? The race summit, the summit on racism.
Yeah.
And there was like there was like a panel or a breakout session. It was like white people can white people be woke? And all the black people were like,
oh no.
Question emotion. Can white folk be woke? Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm asking you, Sarah.
I don't know. I mean, I think
I'm
that
joking. I'm not gonna put
they
you
can
there.
try.
I was shit. Me and Dave stepped back. I was like, let's see what that is. Let's see where this goes.
I think white people can be woke. I mean, we can be woke. Because here's the thing, right? Here's my definition of woke, right? Everybody can, and this is what most people tend to do is identify their oppression. That's what most people do at the very first. They're like, I'm oppressed with this. I mean, but to be woke is also to identify your privilege. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And like, as a black man in America, like, it's very hard for black men in America to admit that they have privilege. Yeah, I mean, you look around, you be like, what the fuck? This don't look like, this don't feel, when a motherfucking cop's neck is on, like, knee is on my neck, that shit don't feel like privilege. Yeah, I mean, if I'm poor, I'm living in a trailer park somewhere in fucking Wyoming as a white person, that shit don't feel like privilege. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, like, you have to, in those identifying your oppressions, identify your privilege as well. And that's what wokeness is saying, you know what? I am privileged in the sense that I am an American versus an immigrant. I am a man versus a woman. I am, in a socioeconomic
I do benefit
bracket.
from the system that oppresses other folk.
Exactly. I benefit in some way. I benefit.
I think the only way to be woke in that situation then is to go past. You have to go beyond saying, okay, I'm a beneficiary of oppression.
Right.
So you have to move from understanding that you're a beneficiary into understanding that you then need to dismantle
do
it.
something. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like, I need
you now
to
got to combat it with everything you have, with every tool you have in your kit. You have to combat that oppression, or you're not woke.
I would just say for a white person to be woke, we just got to trust them. Like, if we don't trust you, like, if we don't trust that everything you're saying or doing is genuine, then I wouldn't classify you as woke.
You got to talk to your people. I'm not woke.
Right. You got to direct your message towards
about
those
sexism.
who.
You see what I'm saying? And it's in the same thing. I mean, like, it's like, in that case, you would have to ask, can men be woke? And I would hope that I could be woke. Yeah,
I think everyone
like,
can be woke.
Yeah, I mean,
but
like,
I think we've like skewed what it means to even be woke. Like, now being woke, some people think that being woke is just like synonymous with blackness. Being woke is an enlightenment.
Exactly.
It's knowing something more than you did before. It's when you're going through that subconscious, like, you've been indoctrinated, this society has jaded you. Is you waking up and recognizing that everything ain't peachy.
Yeah, shit ain't all sweet. Everything ain't
that's
peachy
what woke
keen.
used to be. I don't know when it morphed into something else.
So I just look at my district, right? And it's 93% white. Like, and it was very, like, we mentioned gerrymandering. Like, that's very intentional. Like, that is like very deliberate in the racial composition of the 21st district. And, I think about my life and that I like get to experience a lot of different things. I have a lot of different friends from different backgrounds, different races, different ages. But like, at the end of the day, my job is to go into my district, which I know is like white working class, poor folk who are racist, because it's so much easier for them to look to their side and say, I'm going to blame that person, instead of collectively looking upward and saying, like, how do we dismantle this system? Yeah. And like, that's my role now. My role is to go in those spaces where people are saying things that are really uncomfortable. And it's easy for me to be like, I'm gonna write you off. Like, you're not someone who is worth my time. You're beyond saving. No, like, my job is to be there and to hear and to educate and to say, like, I'm working for all of us. And also, like, when we get people to run, like, more than likely those councils and things like that are going to be comprised of white people. We need to make sure that they are white people who are going to view things through a multiracial economic lens.
That's why I said, I mean, it's fun, but I mean, I have
shit don't sound fun.
I have the option
it don't sound fun
of tapping out after it gets, there's a certain point where I'm like, you know what, you're unreachable. And the amount of time and effort that it would take me to kind of, the long game. Because, like, you're not, you're never going to change somebody off of a Twitter interaction or a social media interaction or even maybe just one sitting down. Sometimes you have those stories, but it takes a long, it's befriending or, like, even, like, being, like I said, as a senator or as a congressman or as an elected official, you're going to be in that person's life for years. So you have a longer, period of kind of like, doing it or whatever. Whereas, like, I get to just be like, you know what, man, I'm cool. You way too far gone. I'm gonna just focus over here. Whereas when you are in that position, you're servicing everybody. You're literally
it's
a
my
servant
job.
of everybody,
it's
not just the people that you like. You got to serve everybody.
Absolutely, and it's part of my job. Like it's part of my job to sit there and sit with people who need more handholding and who need a place to unpack that. And, you mentioned privilege, and I talk about my experience in my life through the lens of privilege and saying that, I had a father who was addicted to opioids and who OD'd about 10 years ago. But that all happened in Ross Township, which is like a middle-class suburb, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're homeless in a middle-class suburb, or you don't know when your next meal is going to come from, there's more resources there. There's more people with more capacity, so it doesn't feel as tragic. I mean, right? That's privilege.
Rich county is. I mean, like the resources that we have here in Allegheny County are completely different from Westmoreland County or even like a Butler or a Beaver County. I mean, so even the amount of services that you're offered, whether it's through the government or third party, are way more like advanced and deep than your neighbors maybe a few miles away even.
But then, and it means acknowledging, like, I can acknowledge what happened in the systems that oppressed me and oppressed my family and maybe even forced us not to take advantages of services because of the stigma attached to it. But then also say, they all need to be dismantled and we need to build something different. So it's a balance between both of those lenses, and not necessarily saying like, well, because you're white and poor, you're privileged, so like, why are you complaining? No, you're still suffering and we still need to change it. Yeah. But also I need you to recognize where your participation in this is hurting people.
Including yourself.
Yeah.
Including yourself.
That's that's been my goal. Is my approach is just like appealing to self-interest. Yeah, I mean, that's been like, systemic racism is bad because if you pass these very oppressive drug laws, then eventually they're going to knock on your door. Yeah, I mean, like right now in Michigan, they're over knocking on middle-class white people's doors who are legally into marijuana sales, but like because of those seizure laws or whatever, like they're able to like knock on the door, see a random like, these locks aren't up to code, so now we could take everything of value in your home and then make you fight for it back in court. And like there's a lot of like white folks, middle-class white folks are like, I can't believe this is happening. And it started in the Reagan era. I mean,
you was gonna go there anyway.
It started.
Brother Malcolm had a phrase for that. He said it's like the chickens coming home to roost.
Yeah.
Man,
American politics.
We killed this fucking podcast.
Yeah. So, in the interest of goals, let me figure out how to end this. So, what would be if you wanted a message, one just message to come from this podcast? What would you want it to be? I'll ask each of you individually. So we'll start with you, Sarah.
I just think that another world is possible.
Ooh.
She stole my vision. That's cool though. Sharing this caring.
She had the privilege of going first.
Yeah, it was.
No, that's real.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like we're out here trying to show and trying to prove and trying to create what we want to see in this world. It's ours. We have a responsibility over it, and we can shape it.
So have Kat title this A Different World. And let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at Sara4PA. That's SARA, no H, for FORPA. I'm also on Twitter at Innamo, INNAMO, and on Facebook.
You can find, this is Summer, and you can find me, if y'all want to shoot me some dollars, because like we're talking about investment.
Yeah, we're going to shoot that. Yeah,
we're talking about
where can they shoot them dollars
You
at?
can shoot $1 at summerforpa.com. If you want to be quick, you can just hit the /donate, but you can also peruse the site.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at summerforpa. It's summer like the season, SUMMERFORPA. You can find me on Instagram at Sojourner2. I don't know where my little underscore is though, but
I think it's _Sojourner2_.
Yeah, it might be.
I tag you a lot
really
in things.
If I lose this password, it's a wrap.
Once you put an underscore on it, I think it's like null and void. I don't think anybody puts that effort in there.
Who are all these sojourners out here?
She was a famous runner, so
but they're not actually seeking truth, though.
Yeah,
I don't see these people. It's like regular old Josephine's out here. She's sojourner. She don't even know nothing about sojourner. But that's okay. You can also find me on Facebook on my real name, or you can find me at Summer for PA, everything.
They let the people know where they can find us.
Yeah. Summer L. Lee.
Shit, you can find us at their next rally, man.
You can find me on the magisterial bench seat
on the ballot.
Find me at some magisterial bench seat. I'm be banging my gavel. I'm about to turn that motherfucker out.
You can find us at epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod.
And you can get their mixtape.
Yo, yes, I can't wait for our mixtape to drop, man.
Me and Sarah's mixtape is coming out next week. You know?
All right, cool. So they gonna do what y'all gonna call it. You know what I mean? What's the title of the mixtape?
I don't know.
Y'all can't call it A Different World. We took that. That's gonna be the title of this podcast.
I really think that that's copyrighted already.
It's the summer of Sarah. You know what I mean?
Summer and Sarah do mixtapes.
Summer, there you go. Summer of Sarah. So y'all choose one of the two. We'll title the podcast. We'll title the podcast, whichever one y'all don't choose. But we just want to thank our guests for coming out and just enlighten. For me, it was all about enlightenment. I feel like energized. I want to go do something. I'm about to go do some shit. I'm about to go.
Fucking podcast.
I'm about to go pick up some trash. Something, man. I'm about to just go out there, do some shit. But unless we drink a lot on the second podcast, then I ain't gonna do a damn thing.
we gonna recycle these mindful cans.
We gonna recycle these cans.
We gonna mind these mindful cans.
I'm
going to
recycling the fuck out of these cans.
We got to start somewhere, y'all. There's no shame in starting.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
We take baby steps. All right, but no, we want to thank you too for coming out. I really hope that you all are reflective of where the city is going, where the nation is going, man. I love your energy. I love your voice, your passion. Like this shit got me riled up. I don't even look. Shit, I'm about to find a position I ain't never heard of, and I'm gonna make Mill run for it. But look, as always, Drinking Partners is the crew. Epicast is the family, and we out here.
That should be the back.
That's the next everywhere.